Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today is the start of a weekly reading vlog. I have a really good feeling about this week. I've got some fun plans. Today is actually Easter, and then the end of this week we have Indie Bookstore Day, and I have a lot of books that I couldn't fit into any sort of themed reading vlog that I either really need to read before I return to the library or I'm just really interested in reading. So I figured this week would be a really great week for a weekly reading vlog. So this is going to be kind of a short introductory clip because me and my partner are going to go see Sinners today. I am so excited. I've been hearing such great things about that movie and figured it would be a fun watch on Easter Sunday. So we're going to go see that in just a couple of minutes now, but wanted to get on here, introduce the vlog, get excited about some of these books that I am going to be reading. A book that I am currently reading that you probably won't see too many updates on is Wolves of the Kala by Stephen King, and this is the 5th book in the Dark Tower series. So there's a lot of ground to cover. I don't think I could talk about this one at any great extent without really diving into events that have happened in the other books as well as just spoilers. So maybe I will give updates on my progress in this one and how it is going, but probably nothing too in-depth. But this is one of the books that I am reading this week. As for the other books that I plan on getting to, taking a look at Libby, we have The Resurrectionist. I have that as a physical book, and then the audiobook checked out as well. We have The Garden by Nick Newman. That's actually probably quite the springy, summery horror. We have Old Soul by Susan Barker. The audiobook, as well as I do have a physical copy checked out from the library as well. Ronald Malfi's Senseless. That could be a good read. The Haunting of Room 904 by Erica T. Worth. The Dissonance by Sean Hamill. That one, I do also have the physical checked out of the library. If you see that Jack Ketchum's read, that is for a reading vlog, so wouldn't be reading that one. But that's what we're working with in terms of Libby. In terms of physical books, I have way more than this that I have checked out from the library right now, but just kind of some priority ones that I'm really intrigued in. Vantage Point by Sarah Slagar. This is a mystery about a really influential family and a bunch of secrets and murder mystery, something like that. I don't know. I'm intrigued by this one, so I could read that one. And then the other two, I have a feeling that I might want to dive into after watching Sinners today. And the first one is Lightfall by Ed Crocker, and this one is a fantasy horror about vampires. I think this one leans more into like the fantasy world and the fantasy world building, but there are vampires. And then we also have Old Soul, again, by Susan Barker. I talked about this one just a minute ago when I was going over my Libby loans, and this one I also have as a physical book. So, you know, I'm feeling maybe if I enjoy Sinners, I'll probably want to dive into some of these vampire books. So I don't know what I'm going to be reading yet, but I am really excited to dive into some of these books this week. So I'm gonna go get to watching Sinners. I will check back in later with a Sinners review as well as an update of what I've decided to read this week. So I will talk to y'all later. So we are back from the movie Sinners and I loved it. I really loved it. It's my favorite movie of the year so far, and not really a contest, honestly, at this point. This is a movie that I feel like if you go and watch it and see it, especially at the theaters, it's a movie that just makes you fall in love with watching movies. It was just such an enjoyable, engaging watch. We follow two brothers, they're twins, and their cousin as they are setting up a juke joint. But as they're getting ready for opening day of their business, there is a darker evil that is lurking in the shadows waiting for them. So I just really enjoyed this one. It takes place in the 1930s, very immersive historical fiction, and it worked really well. There's a specific scene that happens when there's music playing, and if you've seen seen it, then I'm sure you know which one I am talking about. It's about at the hour point, when, like the height of the movie, when everything is going great before bad things start happening. There is this music scene that is happening that is just so beautiful. It's an incredibly shot scene, and I just really loved this one. I'm a vampire fan, but I think even if you're someone who doesn't like vampires, doesn't like vampire fiction, vampire horror, I think you could still get a lot out of this one. Just the balance of just emotional weight and the vampiric scares and gore and tension in this movie. It was so good. This one is more than 2 hours long, and it was one where I didn't even realize that it was that long until after we had gotten out of the theater, because it was so excellently paced. The amount of time it spends building up these characters and their relationships, so you really feel invested in what is happening. I just thought it was so excellently done, and just the way the soundtrack and the score is so integral to the story. Music is so integral to this story. The way that it was woven in with the plot itself was so good. If you haven't seen it, there are two end credit scenes. There's a mid-credit and an end credit scene that really just build onto this story. It was just a really well-crafted story about, yes, vampires, but also the power of community, and then also the power of music set within this 1930s Southern backdrop. So I really loved this one. Honestly, I might go see if I can go see it again later on this week. It's definitely such an atmospheric film, and I had such a good time with it that I know that it's going to kind of cause me some trouble as we get into the rest of this week, figuring out what to watch, what to read, because I don't know what can top that. So in terms of books, when I was like, maybe I'll want to pick up a vampire book, I still would be interested in that. However, I don't want to pick up a vampire novel right on the heels of watching Sinners, because it's just not gonna compare. So if I pick up a vampire novel, it'll probably be at the end of this week. But for now, I think that I have decided that the book that I'm going to start off this reading vlog with is going to be The Apparition Phase by Maclean. And this one, I do not know a lot about it other than the fact that I placed this one on hold in January, and I just am now getting to the library loan of it. So I don't know where I heard of this one, where I saw this one as like a recommended, but I've been on the wait list for such a long time, so I should probably get around to reading it this week. This says it's a wild rural gothic with some slick plotting, the perfect novel for a phantom present. It's atmospheric, it's reminiscent of the gothic suspense of Shirley Jackson, so I'm sure that's why I placed it on hold. It was a well-recommended gothic book, so all I know is that this is a very atmospheric gothic story. I believe there's ghosts or spirits in this, so this is going to be the book that I am kicking off my week of reading with. I'm gonna go get to reading, and I will check back in tomorrow with a reading update. Hey friends, happy Tuesday. This is going to be a very short update because I don't actually have any sort of reading update for you all. I have read about a page, literally a page of The Apparition Phase by Maclean. It's going okay. I just did not have an opportunity to read because my dog Obi got sick yesterday, so we were dealing with that. He is okay. It was a 24-hour flu or stomach bug, so that's what we were doing. Me and my partner all day yesterday is taking care of him. He's feeling great today. He's a lot better, but yesterday was a lot of cleanup and going in and out and just monitoring him. So yeah, yesterday was a wash in terms of reading, and honestly, I'm very exhausted. I'm very exhausted today. Obviously, it was just like a very tedious day because also like we have two dogs, so we were trying to keep Bruce and Obi separated from each other, just because, you know, when we're sick, Obi especially likes a little bit of space, and also we did not want Bruce to get the same thing. Knock on wood, I don't think he is. I think we've cleared it, we're past it. Obi's doing better, Bruce is feeling great, but yesterday was rough, so no reading got done. Optimistically today there should be a little bit more reading, but I do also have to catch up on work. I also want to catch up on sleep, because those two things were also impacted by the little Armageddon that we had. So yeah, no reading update for today, but I just wanted to come on and give that update, because otherwise I felt like just Wednesday's update would just be very long. So yeah, that's what I've been dealing with. The very optimistic Taylor on Sunday has been kind of humbled a little bit, but we definitely should be getting some reading done today and throughout the rest of this week. So I'm gonna go get to working, and then I'll get to reading, and I will check back in with y'all tomorrow with a reading update. Happy Wednesday, friends. I don't actually work until later on today, so I have a very laid back and relaxed morning ahead of me. I actually had time to make an iced coffee, so I went ahead and did that, and it's time to do some reading. But before that, I do have a reading update. So I am now about 35% of the way through the Apparition phase, and I am enjoying it so far. I almost feel like I should try and do this more often with library books, especially ones on Libby, because typically if I look up a title on Libby and the wait list is months and months, I usually won't place a hold for it. Libby allows you to save titles for later and make like different folders, so I have a for later folder that I'll usually save those titles in. However, every once in a while I will place just one of those longer waitlist titles on hold. So I did that in the case of this book, and I think that's kind of a fun way to mix up the TBR and be surprised by the book that you're reading, because I know that I had placed this on hold because I was interested in reading it, but I had no idea what it was about. So that leads me to believe I probably got it from a list of recommendations somewhere, like maybe a list on Instagram of a bunch of different books, or a Reddit recommendation, something like that. I feel like if I would have seen someone talk about this on YouTube or TikTok, I would have like remembered the synopsis of this one, but nevertheless, I'm enjoying it. It's been a fun surprise reading it and figuring out what this book is about and why I was interested in it. So this takes place in England in the 1970s, and we are following main character Tim and his twin sister Abby, and they are obsessed with the paranormal. The story kicks off with the two of them just playing around in their attic one day and deciding that they want to recreate a ghost photo. So they're talking about the ghost photography that have really like inspired them, and their favorite ghost photographs and the ones that really scare them. And that was fun because when I was reading that section, I recognized the titles of some of these infamous photos and really remember as a kid being scared by them as well. My grade school library had this book in the nonfiction section about real hauntings, and I would check it out at least once a month because it had a lot of photographs in there. It was an older book as well, and I just got so delightfully creeped out when I was looking through the photos. So photos like the tulip staircase photo, or there was one, I forget the name, but it's like in a monastery and it's this really creepy, sinister figure. So I really appreciated that part. It really just brought me back to when I was a kid and starting to get really interested in ghosts and the paranormal. So the very beginning of this book, Tim and Abby create a ghost ghost photograph, and they use it to scare a classmate. They're not intending to scare this classmate, but they want to see if they can actually sell their photo or get people to think that their ghost photo is real. So they show it to a classmate who thinks it's definitely very real, very scary, and that kicks off a series of events that have a weight and consequences that neither Tim nor Abby could fully understand when they set about to create this ghost photograph. So this has been a lot of creepy ghosty fun. One thing that I love about now that I have an iPad and I can read ebooks on my iPad is that I can read in the dark, which I think is going to really elevate my reading experience for a lot of horror books. So for this one, it feels so nostalgic to me, and not that I ever lived in England in the 1970s, but just the childhood obsession that I feel like a lot of people who like horror have with paranormal investigations and ghost photographs and ghost technology and the different scientific methods of trying to conduct seances or capture voice recordings, like trying to blend the scientific with the paranormal. And I think that's really interesting. We've just been introduced to a location where I think we're going to get some like ghost hunting involved and have a seance and have just some of that ghost investigation. So I am really enjoying this one. Again, I'm just really loving picking up this book, knowing I wanted to read it and just reading it, not knowing a clue about like the synopsis and what is going to happen. It's something that I've actually noticed, like when I make videos talking about anticipated releases, like the descriptions for a lot of these books just seem so long, and I feel like a lot of the times the blurbs just need to be shorter. I don't need to know everything that happens in a book to pick it up. So it is fun not knowing what's going on and not knowing like what kind of story that I'm going to get out of this one, and maybe it is something I will kind of implement more throughout the year. The only reason why I don't typically place holds on things that will take months to get to me is that you have a very limited number of holds on Libby. Like there's a finite number of titles that you can place holds on, so I don't want to take all of those up with things that will take months and months to get to me. I like to kind of balance it out, but maybe one or two holds I should like reserve for these titles and just have them be a fun surprise when I finally get to them. So I am enjoying this one a whole lot. Also, I did just get in my hold for Conclave, and I think obviously that would be like really great timing to read this one. I haven't seen the movie either. I'm still on a wait list for that. I had placed a wait list on the book on Libby because I had wanted to see the movie. I didn't realize it was a book, and so I wanted to read the book before watching the movie. And now, of course, with this week, R.I.P. Pope Francis, like this seems like it could be a very timely read. So I don't know. I might dive into that. I was raised Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore, but just this whole entire process is very fascinating. Pope Francis seemed like a very genuine person that really like lived the ideals of what his religion preaches. So I am hoping that whoever replaces him kind of keeps up his legacy, because it definitely seems like his legacy was kind of moving the Catholic Church in the right direction. So I don't know, we might pick up Conclave, we might not, but either way, I'm gonna go get to reading before I have to work, and I will check back in tomorrow with another update. Hey friends, happy Thursday. Lots of reading updates for y'all, so let's just go ahead and get into it. I did finish last night The Apparition phase by Maclean, and I did enjoy this one overall. I'm a little bit torn as to how best to talk about it because the synopsis, the blurb for this one, is very vague. I like that as a reader. However, I was looking at reviews, and a lot of the reviews mention that they wish that the blurb would would have been more extensive so they know what they're getting into. So I'm really torn as to like how I present this book and talk about this book, because I liked the unpredictable nature of this one and the vague synopsis. A lot of people didn't. So I will say my biggest complaint for this, actually, it did feel like two separate story synopses. They do tie in together at the end, but part one feels very different than parts 2 through 4, and we do get a big location change and a big plot change that does tie into what we were getting in part 1. But I think the jump from one part to another is a little steep. It's a little sudden, and I think a lot of people, me included, didn't expect that. So we are following our main character, who is a twin, and he and his twin are trying to create a ghost photograph, and they are really into hauntology and the different ways in which science during the 1970s was trying to get evidence and explain ghostly phenomenon. So they're trying to create that ghost photograph, and that kicks off a series of really dark events. And as our main character is trying to cope with this series of dark events that are kicked off by that photograph, he gets intertwined in a college study that is at a supposedly haunted house. And because of like a chance encounter, he gets the opportunity to stay at this house and participate in this study to try and find evidence of the paranormal. So I did enjoy this one overall. I thought it was a really fun time. I read most of it in the dark, and that was really fun as someone who was really interested, like who's still interested, but as a kid was really interested in ghost photography and reading about like hauntology and all of that. I found this really entertaining. I will say I felt some deja vu when I was reading this book, and I'm not trying to brag, but I do have like a really good memory about what books that I have read, and when I read a book, I remember the plot, the synopsis, like everything that happens. And I was reading this and I felt like I had read this before. There's something that's a twist at the end that I didn't feel like it was a twist. I felt like I had read this story before, but I was thinking about it. I could not remember. I was like, okay, I know I haven't read this book, and I was trying to figure out if I had read a book, trying to think of titles or synopses or something that had happened, and I couldn't figure out why this just felt, I got such a big sense of deja vu. However, there is something, if you have read a lot about history during this time period and different things and different scientific studies, I think you will also be able to guess what this book is doing, because towards the end of the book, they mentioned this thing that happened in real life. I was like, oh, that's where I'm getting the deja vu. That's what this book is clearly one of the inspirations for it. So I think if you were really interested in like the scientific pursuit during this time and know a lot about different studies and different experiments, I think you'll be able to guess what is going on in this one. But it was very creepy, very fast-paced and fun, and I finished it last night, was not tired, still felt in the mood for a horror, and I ended up picking up Strange Pictures by Uketsu. And I was not planning on finishing another book last night, but I did. I started and finished it. This is 240 pages, so it is a shorter one, but it also has lots of pictures in it. The author Uketsu is a YouTuber, I believe, in Japan, and their background is a mystery. No one knows what they look like, what they sound like. They use like a mask and a voice modulator, and their whole thing is they do puzzles based on drawings. So this book is essentially that. It's 4 short stories, and they're all interconnected in a way that you don't suspect, but you start to see as you're reading through these, the different threads that connect these 4 stories that seemingly at first glance do not seem connected to each other, and they all have pictures that really help you, like they give you clues that you can kind of try and figure out the mystery of what is happening. So I thought this one was really fun. I would definitely say this felt more like a puzzle book than a horror book, if that makes sense. The puzzles were fun. The interactive nature of this one was a lot of fun and intensely readable, but it did feel like the puzzles were the primary and the writing and the story came a little bit later, but it was a lot of fun. It was very short, fast-paced mystery, so I had a lot of fun. I think there's actually going to be another book by this author coming out later on this year, at least translated into English, so I will be checking it out. I did have fun with this one. It was a very fast-paced read. It had all of those pictures throughout, which added to the creep factor. I read it in the middle of the night in the dark, so that was pretty fun, and I didn't expect to start it and finish it like all in one go. So I have finished now 2 books since I've talked to y'all last, and I don't know what I'm going to read next. I did mention Conclave, still want to read Conclave, but I am kind of feeling it's been a couple of days since I've seen Sinners, and I'm feeling like I want to pick up a vampire book. And so I am going to be picking up a vampire book, with the caveat that I know that this is not going to give Sinners vibes. A lot of people have been giving some great book recommendations for books to read. If you liked Sinners, I've read a lot of them. One that keeps coming up is The Buffalo Hunter for the vampire aspect, and then some other books as well that I have read, or there's one, Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark, I actually have specifically planned for a specific video later on this year, so I can't read that one just yet, but I am in the mood for vampires. So I'm going with Old Soul by Susan Barker. This one is not horror. I believe it's more of a literary sort of tale. I could be wrong. Looking at the dust jacket, it says it's part horror, part western, and part thriller. It's a fearlessly bold and genre-defying tale about predation, morality, and free will in one man's quest to bring a centuries-long chain of human devastation to an end. So this is what I'm going to dive into next. Just really been feeling a vampire book. So I'm gonna read this vampire book. I don't know, this one, I think it's about 300 or so pages without checking. I think it's around that length. So I should finish this one up around Friday, Saturday, and then maybe wind out this week with Conclave. Again, I was kind of feeling reading Conclave. It feels like a great week to do so. However, the past couple of books I have read have been on my iPad, and I am just craving reading a physical book. So we're gonna go with Old Soul. I'm gonna go get to reading. I'll check back in tomorrow with a reading update. Hey friends, happy Friday. We do have a little bit of a switch up when it comes to the TBR. I was looking on my library's website, looking at my holds and my checkouts, and I realized, wow, I do still really want to read Old Soul, and I will be doing so in the immediate future. I do have a book that I need to return on Monday, and I would like to get to it, so it looks like that is what we are going to read this weekend, and that book is Something in the Walls by Daisy Pearce. This book needs read this weekend if I want to read it before I have to return it to the library. This says it's perfect for anyone who loves Midsummer and The Haunting of Hill House. That's very exciting. Those are 2 really great comp titles, at least for me. I like both of those. It says it's unbearably tense, utterly propulsive, and studded with folklore and horror. So I believe this takes place in the 1980s in the UK, I believe. We're following a newly minted child psychologist who is still trying to get experience under her belt. Our main character hears about this young girl who believes she is being haunted by a witch. This girl's about 13 years old, and she lives in a very small, isolated community that is very superstitious. So our main character is going to try to help her, but as she's trying to help her, things keep getting worse, and the town gets whipped up into a sort of hysteria, I believe. So I am looking forward to this one. This is another like shorter book. Not only is this less than 300 pages, but I mean, like, look, Old Soul I feel like is a very standard size of hardback, and this one is just shorter and smaller. So I feel like this should be a pretty fast-paced read. Love the comp titles. I am a little bit hesitant about the mental health rep in here, because I really don't love in a movie or even a book where the protagonist has a mental illness and that's just used as a plot device to make them unreliable. So I am hoping I do like the way The Haunting of Hill House, both the TV show and the book, approaches mental health and mental wellness and the paranormal. So I am intrigued. I'm intrigued by this one. one. The cover is very springy horror, so it feels like a great week to read this. So I will be reading this today. This is actually my day off. I typically work on Sundays and then take Friday off for myself, so I have a ton of time to read today. And then this evening, me and my partner are actually going to see Star Wars Episode 3 in theaters, which will be really fun. We have the AMC A-List pass, and it's honestly like such a good deal. I feel like it's like a meme at this point, like CrossFitters or something like that, where people with the AMC A-List pass have to tell you about it, but it is really such a good deal if you're seeing more than 1 or 2 movies a month. So we really like, our movie theater has been doing a lot of re-releases for anniversaries, and this one is gonna be a lot of fun. I actually remember seeing this one in the theaters when it first came out, and I remember thinking, okay, I have to soak this all in because this is the last time that I will be seeing a Star Wars movie in the theaters, because I had thought that that was like, you know, the end of Star Wars. I'm sure probably like a lot of other people, then of course I've seen several other Star Wars movies in theaters since then, but I always remember that memory that I was like trying as a little kid to really absorb it, because this was the last time I was gonna see Star Wars in theaters, and that is not the case. It's actually very fun because my little brother, who is so big into Star Wars, and this is his favorite movie of all of the Star Wars movies. He never got a chance to see it in theaters because he was too young, so he got to see it yesterday and had such a fun time. So we're really excited to see that tonight. But other than that, it's going to be a very laid-back day, plenty of time for me to read. So I'll be diving into this book, and I will be checking back in later with another reading update. Happy Saturday and happy Independent Bookstore Day. I did in fact just get home from me and my partner and a friend. We went downtown, we went to a little bookstore, little independent bookstore, and then went out to lunch together. So I did purchase one book, and unfortunately I cannot show it on the vlog because it is a gift and I don't want the recipient to watch this and see the gift. So I did buy a book, and I can't show it. So the haul is a little disappointing, but I did also buy a bookmark. It's a cute little piece of like funfetti cake, and it's from the company Humdrum Paper. So I do have a cute bookmark that I can show off for the haul. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm excited about the gifted book that I bought. But I know that's not too exciting for y'all, but I hope everyone had a happy Independent Bookstore Day. It was definitely a fun day. It was a gorgeous day outside, and the bookstore that I went to is in such a cute little neighborhood, so it was really fun walking around and patronizing not only the bookstore but just a bunch of other small businesses in that area as well. So definitely had a lot of fun, and I don't have a significant update to this book. I obviously did have some time on Friday, but then we went to the movie, and then today we were pretty much out and about all morning and afternoon, and now I've just gotten back home, so not too much of an update. All that's happened in this book is the setup to this plot. So we're following main character Mina. It takes place in England in the 1980s, and she has just graduated. She's a psychologist. She still needs to go and get like a master's, and she needs more experience in the field, but she's kind of looking for a little bit of a change, and not even necessarily a change, but just a little bit more experience underneath her belt. She is about to be married to her fiance, and it's very clear from the beginning of this book that they're not a great match for each other. It seems that Mina is a little bit discontent, even if she doesn't realize like how discontent and how ill-fitting the relationship is. He's just a partner that is like constantly like belittling her, and we've not gotten a lot from him. So just everything that he is saying, he just doesn't seem like he's taking Mina's career or wants or needs very seriously at all. So Mina is attending, at the very start of this novel, she is attending a grief counseling group. Her brother died when they were both very young children, and she's still very, very shaken up and very much dealing with grief from that. So she is attending this support group. She meets a man there, and he is actually a reporter, and they strike up a conversation. They bond over their mutual grief of losing loved ones, and he starts talking about a story that he is investigating about a young girl whose parents believe she is being possessed, and this young girl lives in this very small community, and there's something that I'm not going to give away, but there is something that he thinks, even though he's a journalist and he's very skeptic of the paranormal, he thinks that there might be a lot more to the story than what meets the eye. He shows Mina this evidence, asks her for her help and her expertise, and she really wants to help, not only because this would be a great case, she wants to go into child psychology and have her own practice one day, but she just feels like a kinship to this young girl and just is dealing a lot with grief in her own life and wants to help and is very interested in the situation that is going to occur. So she has just gotten to this house and she is starting to help with the investigation and the psychological eval of Alice, the young teenage girl who is going through all of these events. So far so good. I will say I've seen this cover a lot. I've had it in my house. I've picked this book up several times and talked about reading it. There is something on this front cover that I didn't realize until just today when I was picking this book up. So obviously it's a very springy cover. I've even commented on that. There's a very pretty wallpaper and there's the floral and all that. But then as you zoom in closer, there is an eyeball hidden within the walls. And now that I know it's there, I can't stop staring at it. I don't know why. Like, I've looked at this book several times. I've talked about it in different videos. I don't know if it's just, it's very intentionally hidden. It's a very dark part of the book cover, or if it's also just like the library binding as well, but I missed that for a while. And now it's a very, very creepy, unnerving cover to me. So yeah, I've had a really good day so far. We don't have anything planned for this evening, so I'll definitely be diving more into this one. So I'm going to go get to reading, and I will check back in tomorrow with a reading update. So it is now time to close out this vlog. I did end up finishing Something in the Walls by Daisy Pearce. I had to return it to the library this morning, but I did in fact finish it, and I thought it was a pretty well-paced, enjoyable thriller horror book. So not only is this a great summer horror because it takes place in the summer, but it also takes place during a heat wave where the government has enacted stay-at-home orders for large parts of the day. There's curfews, it's very oppressively hot, so that makes this a really good summer horror read, because that sense of heat and looming doom every single day where people know that they have to stop what they're doing outside and immediately return inside, I feel like that really helps build upon the sense of dread and unease in this one. It's a very small town and something is just not quite right within this small town. There's a big undercurrent of distrust and hysteria, and that heat is really cranking up like the heat in the pressure cooker for this whole entire situation. Now, the end, I don't know if I really loved the end. There were some parts about it that it just didn't really feel satisfying, but this one had some very creepy moments, very creepy scenes. If you are looking for a summer horror, and if you are looking for a witchy horror, I would recommend this one overall. I had a great time with it. I also made quite a bit of progress in Wolves in the Kala, and I'm really enjoying this one so far. It's taken turns ones that I didn't expect. I mean, I never know when I am diving into the Dark Tower series, like what the next book is going to contain. It's always such a mystery, but this is going really well as well. And I am kind of laughing at myself because I started editing this vlog and I set a little bit of a TBR, talked about a lot of books at the very beginning of this vlog, and I ended up not really reading any of them. I mean, I mentioned Wolves of the Calla, and I did read that throughout this week, but all of the books that I was talking about that I showed on my Libby checkouts list didn't get to a single one, but that's okay. I had a lot of fun mood reading, had a lot of fun with these books in general, but that is it for this weekly reading vlog. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. I love talking to y'all in the comments. Subscribe to my channel. Stay safe, stay spooky, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!